Jeremiah chapter 13. And here, well, I really need to get, I'm going to, my visual aid that I usually pass out, that timeline of the prophets and the kings, I'm going to see if I can get the little section of the corner, down in the bottom corner of that, enlarged so that you can actually read it, get it enlarged and print it out. All I have to do is figure out my computer to figure out how to do it, and my scanner and all that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna try and have that for you next week, because you'll need it for this part. Because now my Bible, the on the side there it has the date which the prophecies were made and like that, and with and most of them, you pick your timeline, and timelines are whichever Bible scholar made them, depends on what the dates are. You get 10 scholars trying to figure out a timeline, and you get 20 different answers. Actually, chapter 12, according to the timeline on my Bible, was written in 608 BC, question mark. Okay? And chapter 11 was written in 608 BC. Chapter 10, remember, it kind of skips around here. Chapter 10, they say, was written in 600 BC. Remember, BC, the years go down. So, chapter 12 would have been written, according to this, about 6 years before chapter 13. Okay? We've got 602 BC. Now, apparently, we can figure out the date of this prophecy. You can get a guess. You got to get your Hebrew calendar, and however many. Let's see, we've got the Julian calendar, we've got the Gregorian calendar, we've got all the Roman calendar. Pick your calendar. You gotta match up all your calendars, and but you can figure out. They start with the start of the reign of a king, okay, and you can figure stuff out that way. But according to this, the date is fixed by the mention in verse 18. Down here in verse 18, and all we have is this: say unto the king and to the queen, humble yourselves, sit down, for your principalities shall come down, even the crown of your glory. Okay, this mention of this queen in verse 18. Okay, and Mr. Barnes of Barnes Notes thinks it's Nehushta. Remember that one for the next Bible trivia when it comes up. Who was the queen anyway? Nehushta. Yep. And she was the mother of Jehoiachin, and she was the wife of Jehoiakim, and this would have been written, during Jehoiakim's reign, okay, which about 602 BC, thereabouts. Now remember, Jeremiah was preaching for like 40 years when God first called him, and when he ended, he preached for about 40 years there. But it's one we've got here one of these symbolical acts by which lessons are taught, stuff like that, and apparently during this, there's a period of time here, not sure where, we'd have to go back and go back into Chronicles and Kings, and we studied through Chronicles and Kings 20 plus years ago, I'm sure. But we'd go back and find during the reign of Josiah, that's when Jeremiah started preaching, and went through, to the part of the captivity. But apparently, between, if you will, chapter 12 and chapter 13, okay, he's been kind of hiding. He's there's a gap in his preaching there, okay, and about a 6 or 7 year gap, and in the last few days of Jehoiakim, that's why I need the blow up of this timeline. I'll get to you. He was seen on the streets of Jerusalem again, so he disappeared for a while, and did not show himself for about 7 years. So and he came back with a prophetic robe of black camel's hair, and with his girdle, girt about with his girdle, and we're going to talk about his girdle here in the start of this chapter, okay? And this girdle was mildewed and disgusting and dirty, and God, eventually God tells him what to do with this girdle, and then God tells him what to do with it when he comes back. So, chapter 13, verse 1, "Thus saith the Lord unto me, Go and get thee a linen girdle, and put it upon thy loins, and put it not in water." Don't wash it. Okay? Wear it, don't wash it. Now, I don't think girdles are out of fashion these days, aren't they? Are they out of fashion? I don't know. Pretty much. Yeah.
I haven't worn one in years.
Yeah. But that they were all the big fashion, but in here, they were a piece of cloth, worn to and wrapped around to keep things covered up, and they to work in. Okay, you kind of cinch it around, cinch it up, and you could go to work out in the hot sun and all of this. So God tells him a linen girdle. Okay, so this was linen in those days was Jesus was wrapped in linen cloth. Okay, whether it was fine linen or really nice fine linen that like the kings and queens would wear, okay, or whether it was a little more common linen. We have grades of linen. I have to remember this. Somebody remind me. Next week, I do have a piece of linen that I use for, that I use for one of my presentations to the Awana kids, where I wrap a kid up in like a mummy to show them how Jesus would have been wrapped up. But anyway, so I have linen girdle. Put it upon thy loins, okay? Put it not in water. So I got a girdle according to the word of the Lord. Okay? Here's one thing about Jeremiah And one thing about, God's prophets, God's, his prophets, not false prophets, but he was obedient. Okay? And it would really be wonderful if we were obedient to God. Wouldn't it? God says, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved. Okay? Being obedient to that. Okay? Confess with thy mouth, be obedient. Don't sin. Turn away from your sin. Okay? Which the children of Israel are not doing. So he got a girdle according to the word of the Lord and put it on my loins. And the word of the Lord came to me the second time, saying, take the girdle that thou hast got. Now, it doesn't say how long Jeremiah was wearing this girdle. Okay? What span of time was in between there. Take this girdle, which is upon thy loins, and arise. Okay? Go to Euphrates and hide it there in a hole of the rock. Okay? Now, let's see, yeah. Okay, anyway, he was to travel to the Euphrates River, to middle of the Babylonian Empire, and take it, get up and go, hide it in a hole of the rock. Okay? Apparently, there are in the Babylonian Empire in that area, there are no, I don't know, I'm not a geologist, I don't know, but apparently there are no fissured rocks. There are no rocks, that you could hide in or hide something in there in Babylonia. So the place where Jeremiah hid the girdle, must have been somewhere in the upper part of the river. Yeah, whichever way the river flows, upper part, somewhere up there. And then whether he, we're not sure whether he stayed there, okay, or remember he had his home there in a little town, close to Jerusalem. So whether he stayed there, whether his absence, his like 7-year absence, is covered by this time that he was maybe hiding, okay, from his enemies, his family, the people in his own town where he lived were after him. They wanted to kill him. A couple of the kings wanted to kill him. And over in chapter 20, there's a high priest, son of Immer the priest, in chapter 20, verse 1, who was the chief governor of the house of the Lord, heard that Jeremiah prophets these things. Then Pashur smote Jeremiah the prophet. Okay, he's supposed to be, if you're the chief governor of the house of the Lord, chief governor of the temple, okay, you should be following God. Well, this guy put Jeremiah in stocks, kept him there for a couple of days, which were in the high gate of Benjamin, and then he brought him out, and but for some reason Jeremiah was put in the stocks, and another place that we'll get to when we eventually get to it in Jeremiah, he was thrown into a mud pit, and had to stay there for a while, because the king or whoever at the time wanted him dead. So anyway, so here he is. He's going to do this, So I went and hid it by Euphrates, as the Lord commanded me. Okay? Now, Euphrates, that's east and north of Jerusalem. And, he was obedient, did what God wanted him to do. And so he had to find a place where there was a cleft in the rock, okay? Some place where he could remember where it was, whether or not he stayed there. Like I said, whether or not he stayed there in that vicinity, we don't know. But, how many times have we put something someplace and then forgotten where it was? I have a whole bunch of tools in my shop that I can't find. If I need them right now, I couldn't find them. Somehow he had to remember where he hid, this girdle. Okay, like I said, he wore it for a period of time. He never washed it, and then he stuffed it in this hole, in a cleft of the rock. Okay? So I went and hid it by Euphrates, as the Lord commanded me. And it came to pass after many days. Now, this many days, we don't know how long this was. It just says many days. Could have been, kind of the description here sounds like it might have been quite a while. If Jeremiah was gone and kind of disappeared for 7 years, was it in there for 7 years? Don't know. So, and it came to pass after many days that the Lord said unto me, Arise, go to Euphrates, okay, go back, and take the girdle from thence, which I commanded thee to hide there. Okay? Go get it. Then I went to Euphrates and digged. Okay? He had to dig. So it was buried. Had dirt on top of it, or, several years worth of dust and dirt and whatever. And took the girdle from the place where I had hid it. And behold, the girdle was marred. Yeah. I'm sure, I don't know what the usual weather back there in those days, what the weather would have done to it. Critters, who knows, come in and make their nest in it. Mice come in, make a nest, who knows. Birds come in, make a nest, unless it was hidden from them too. It was profitable for nothing. Okay? So it was not in any good shape. And, he's going to take this girdle and he's going to wear it again. And, after however long it's been in there, he's going to wear it. And that's where we're going to stop for this week.